Hello, it's Pete here again, and I hope you're ready to dip your toes into that creative ocean, which is the Tim Holtz Vault, because today we are looking at one specific collection. It's one of my favorites. What am I talking about? I love them all. This is Lovebirds. So the Lovebirds die set, it encompasses 4 different sets. So the Vault Collection, the reasoning behind the Vault Collection, as I mentioned before, Tim has designed for Sizzix over 1,000 individual SKUs in both dies and embossing folders. So some of these have been brought back from way in the past. This branch, I seem to remember, was the Bigs. These were Thinlits. So there are 4 different collections. The birds, these are from Heartfelt, which is one of my absolutely favorite dies. I think Heartfelt was a Bigs die. So yeah, they're popular dies which backed by popular demand, I suppose you could say, because a lot of them are now obsolete. They're not available to buy anywhere. So Tim's brought them back for you, and we will see Vault dies being released throughout the year. Now, let's take a look at the individual dies, because even if you have the original shapes, they've all been resized. So they're all slightly different in size. So it's good. If you have these birds, you get a sense of scale. You can put the original next to the new one, and you're going to have very different sizes. There's our lovely branch. We've got this gorgeous feather, and then the 3 hearts, which, as I mentioned, from the Heartfelt die. Now, the Heartfelt die is a Bigs die. I think it has, if memory serves, about 11 different hearts on the one die. So I'm gonna take these today, and I'm gonna make a little kind of collage card with those. So that being said, let's keep one of these out. Let's keep that lovely bird in the center. What I've done is I've taken some scraps of Tim Holtz cardstock. Now, I can imagine most of you, in fact, not all of you, will have a scraps box. And you've got those little bits of card that are too big to throw away, and you know that they're going to come in useful at some point. And this is actually where that come from. This is from my scraps box. And now, you can imagine these are bits of fabric stuck together. I'm going to do this little trick that I like to do from time to time. And I'm using this lovely, it's called a pattern maker's wheel. It's for somebody who works in textiles. And I'm going to run that across there to make, so I'm pressing it deep into the cardstock there. And I'm using a fine line marker. And I'm going to join that up. And it's kind of like a faux stitched effect. So if you don't want to get your sewing machine out and load it up with black threads, say you've got white or cream or whatever in there, this is a great way to get a nice faked stitched effect. And you know, it's hard to tell the difference when it's all in place. Now, it's a Thinlits die, obviously, but it should cope with cutting through this and these as well. No problem at all. Now, all I have to do is kind of judge. And the great thing about this is you're never entirely sure. You're never entirely sure how this is going to come out. It's always a leap into the unknown, which is part of the fun. I always say, embrace the imperfection. And that's what this card is all about. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. More of that later. Now let's push that off to one side, because I'm going to bring in my switch machine. There we are. You can see we've got the power lead down there. So it's an electronic machine. This is the Tim Holtz switch. You see Tim's signature there. And I'm going to place the cutting plates on the top now. With the switch machine, you have your instructions on the platform. This is the base platform. This is the wafer thin die adapter. So if you're confused about how to layer up your dies, your embossing folders, and so on and so forth to get the right cut, it's all here for you. So very difficult to make a mistake. And even if you did, if you didn't have, say, you forgot to add a cutting plate, it simply won't cut because there's not enough pressure. If you get it wrong, so that there's too much pressure, for example, then the machine will simply reject the sandwich. So you can't damage your machine in any way, shape or form. Now, here is the on button. So I simply depress that. Once that is on, all I need to do now is feed this into the machine. And let's say for example, that I need to run this through twice for whatever reason. I can press that button, that is my reverse. I press that and it just sends it through the other way. I only need to do it once with this really, but I just wanted to show you that very, very useful function. The beauty of this machine is in its simplicity. So let's see how that bird turned out. I'm going to pop it to one side while I take my machine over here, and I'm going to get my ever-present die pick. Very handy piece of kit if you don't have one, or a die brush indeed, then they've become essential to the maker's arsenal, particularly those of us who love our die cutting. And there's our bird down in that lovely collage. So you've got those three distinctly different patterns there. And to pick out the edges, I'm going to bring in my distressings, my minis. These are all my browns. Some people like to go across the rainbow. I've got my browns and my blacks and greys. Then I've got my yellows and oranges and my pinks and reds and so on and so forth. But I'm going to take Walnut Stain, an absolute classic. If you love your distressing, that's what it's all about. Walnut Stain. And this is going to be, now because I'm working with patterns and I'm working with a lot of different patterns, which I'll show you in a second, it's important that we get some definition to the edges of these die cuts and the scraps which I've cut, because when you put lots of patterns together, it can visually be a bit of a mess, bit of a dog's dinner. So doing that, let's put it against something white actually. You can see how that inking has really made a difference around those edges to give it some dimension. Oh, if you're not sure what this is one of my, well, this is my multi-tool. This is the hub of the multi-tool, the handle. Now you can take off the end cap as well, it simply slots into place. And this is my blending tool. So it's kind of more intuitive the way that we use it. It becomes almost like holding pen, pencil, paintbrush, knife and fork, whatever. So it's lovely to use. Let's pop that back in. So that's done. Now, I want to talk about what I've got here. I've got a card, and I've stamped onto the front a little light inking around the edges. And I've got all these little scraps. Again, from my scraps box, I've stamped a sentiment ready to go. So they're all there. I don't know if I'm going to use them all or if I'm going to use some of them. I've got my hearts, so I've die cut those little hearts as well. They're ready to go. It's kind of a, I'm going to go down the Valentine's route with this, I think. And I've pre-cut one of these lovely flowers. Now this is from the Vault Wildflowers set. And if I can just bring that in for a second. So Tim originally did, I think it was 3, maybe 4 sets of wildflowers. They were hugely popular. They still are, I know, with many of you. But these have all been resized. So if you have, say, for example, this daisy, the original one is that bit larger. So we've got 6 different wildflowers in there. I'll show you an example of some of the things that I've done with this. So there's a nice cut. The color was used by applying acrylics with a sponge. This one, simplicity itself. We've got 3 of the different wildflowers there and just using black. So just as a silhouette with a lovely inked background behind it. And again, there we are. We've come in with just 3 different, so concentrating on the greens there. Really cool set. I'm sure it's going to be hugely popular. It's one of my favorites. Now, you've probably noticed this as well. This is a rosette, which was made using a die. And the die, or the die set, in question is this one. This is Vault Rosettes. Now, the original rosette was on what we call a decorative strip die, a Sizzix decorative strip. How many of you remember those? I certainly do. I've still got them actually. We've also got this dimensional star and heart, which were much larger in the original sets that they came from. And we've got these lovely circles, which are great for matting and layering, particularly when using in the middle of your rosettes. Now, great thing about this rosette is that you can change the sizes. So if we look at these against some ivory card like that, 3 different sizes of rosette, but they all come from the same die. There's a way to trim these to size. If you want to find out how to do that, or listen to the master telling you how to do that, I should say, then go to timholtz.com and see the wonderful overview video that Tim did recently. But you can see we've got the dimensional heart and the star on there, and some of those layering and matting circles. So that's just a nice little home decor piece set on driftwood. Now, back to our project. Well, let's see how we're going to roll it. Let's have a think. So what I like to do, and very often this is the way that I actually work, is I die cut all these things and then I decide how they're going to sit on the card. So it might be that maybe I have that central something coming across there. Oh, how's mine? You see, I might not even use this wildflower. This was kind of a last minute addition, but I kind of like it, so I think I am. So let's, right, now, what I'm going to do as well. Now, see, that's straight. I'm just going to turn it just ever so slightly, and I'm not even going to use glue today. I'm going to use my tiny attacher, like so. Wonderful, wonderful piece of kit, this. Just for adding those mini staples. So we're going for a more sort of industrial look. So let's see where we go from here. So this is a nice piece. Again, these are all scraps from Tim's paper packs. They're all bits that were left over, bits that were sitting there too good to throw away. And there we are. That's the next one in place. Now I'm wondering because of course I need to get my hearts in here as well. So, yeah, let's put that sort of there, shall we? Let me root around. I'm sure I've got some double-sided tape or PVA somewhere close by. If I'm not, see, we're making it up as we go along. I'm going to take some of these little 3D foam pads. It's probably a bit more dimension than I actually need, but hey ho, needs must. Now, if I pop that there, I've decided I'm going to want this tape coming off the side like that. I just need that little something extra. And you can leave this, you can have this curling up, so you're getting a little bit of extra dimension there. Let's take the backing off those, which I've done already, and pop that thus. Now, where do we go? Where do we go next? I might attach this actually to the back of the bird like that, so I could even get my stapler in on the center of the bird. Yep, that's it. That's what I want. Perfect. So that can he or she can sit like that. This is called Lovebirds, incidentally. So if you're thinking about Valentine's makes, absolutely ideal. But any time beyond that, you know, by switching up the colors, the styles, the patterns, these birds can work any time of year. This could even be a robin at Christmas time. Why not? So that's sat there like that. I've got to think about my sentiment as well. Where's that going to sit? I kind of like things coming from the top as well. Do we want it at the top, or do we want it across like that? I'm sure you're all, everybody's got their own personal favorite ways or places, or you know, the compositions, favorite compositions. That's the word. That's the word I'm trying to get out. I'm going to go at the top today because I did one recently. I did a similar one, and I actually did that one at the bottom. So it depends how it fits together. And this is an organic process. This is something which changes all the time. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's no hard or fast rules. It's just about making it work. And that's what I love about collage. This is only card and paper collage as well. You can add ribbon to this. You can add lace. You can add so many different things. Some of the little metal findings as well, which Ideology and Tim do so well. So let's get the little hearts in there. So you see there are elements, there are things. These will live to fight another day. Because I haven't used them, it doesn't mean that I prefer the others. It just means that it's this is what's working for me today. So there we are. That's it. It's all done. It was that simple. It's got a shabby chic kind of feel, this one. So that's something that I would like. If my wife made that for me, I would be more than happy. No pressure, darling, if you're watching. So there we are. There's one card. Here's another one. So this one was done using acrylics. No, actually, I tell a fib. These were distress oxides. I think we used distress oxides to get the color. And then I stamped with some acrylic as well. So there's inking going on and all sorts of things. So there's another one. How about something simple again? Again, this one was a collage of 2 different types of paper, some inking and stamping in the background there. And then last but not least, I wanted to bring in that gorgeous feather. Lovely set. A set which works so well with all of the other dies from the Tim Holtz Vault. As I said, so there you go. Really, really simple, really straightforward. Those birds, because of the shape, there's no detail. Now, I love that. I love that because it gives me a blank canvas to work on. Whether I want to stamp on it, whether I want to emboss them as well, that's another way you could go with these. It really does allow me to just go off on a creative walkabout, as it were. We've seen 3 sets. We've seen the Vault Wildflowers, we've seen the Vault Rosette, and also the Lovebirds. These are just 3 of 8 sets in Tim's current collection. And if you want to find out more, see more about them, then please go to timholtz.com or indeed YouTube. You can see the full collection at sizzix.co.uk or sizzix.com, depending on where you're watching. It really is great. I can't wait for the rest of the collections. I kind of know what's coming out, which is why I'm excited. But go to Tim's overview and see what he says about these, and look at some of the incredible artwork from his extraordinary team of makers. But there you go. That's my humble effort today. I've been Pete. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.